alive! It's alive! It's alive!
That's right, everybody. It is time to talk about Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. But first, I want to thank you for clicking on a thumbnail and watching this video, and welcome to Bookies. I'm Bear, and you've reached the only YouTube channel that, when monetized, is going to give 100% of the proceeds to local libraries and literacy programs. So if that sounds great to you, just please subscribe. All right, so if you paid attention to the thumbnail, you'll notice that I teased a secret way to read Frankenstein. Now, I don't think it's particularly the best way to read Frankenstein, but it's really interesting. But I'm going to drop that towards the end of the video and primarily focus on the way that most people interpret Frankenstein. And really, the novel is a product of its time and what was going on in European history. Frankenstein was originally published in 1818 with no attribution given as to author. It was anonymous. And then it was republished in 1831, and Mary Shelley was given due credit for her work of art. Now, there's an interesting backstory about the creation of this novel, where Mary Shelley is in Switzerland, and she's engaging in a writing contest that involves Lord Percy and Lord Byron. And it's really kind of a sordid tale of sex and drugs and debauchery, and then a storytelling contest, which both Percy and Byron agreed Shelley won. Frankenstein was the novel she wrote during that time. I'm going to link in the description a really funny and interesting retelling of that origin story by the Drunk History people. So if you're interested in that, and it really is entertaining and funny, take a look at the description and you can link to it. Now, first, I want to tell you that I've never read Frankenstein before last week, and that's really too bad because I think this novel would be even more enjoyable on a second read, and I will eventually get around to it. But I'm really happy that this is the fifth novel in our book hunt for October and Halloween. It's really a treat, and it's a novel that I think you should read because I think you'll enjoy it. One of the reasons I think you'll enjoy it is because it's nothing like how our popular culture has portrayed Frankenstein, or more properly, Frankenstein's monster. Frankly, I was expecting something more close to what you saw in the cutscene that began this video, where Dr. Frankenstein is a mad scientist. The monster he creates, which we erroneously in popular culture call Frankenstein. Actually, the monster in Shelley's novel was never given a name, so I'm just going to refer to him as Frankenstein's monster. Why not? But, you know, I'm expecting to see a creature that moans and groans, has no language capability, is green, bolts in the neck, that kind of thing. And Shelley didn't write the monster that way at all. And that's a good thing, really, because I think the reason I haven't read Frankenstein in the past is because I thought it was going to be akin to what our popular culture portrays it as. I mentioned earlier that this novel is a product of its time. So I'm going to describe to you a little bit of the social context of the novel. And I think as you read it, you'll kind of understand what Shelley's doing. First, this novel was written at the tail end of the Enlightenment, and the Enlightenment stood for the proposition that the world and everything in it is rational, and that man is a thinking being. Dr. Frankenstein is a product of the Enlightenment. He is putting into practice the underlying theme of the Enlightenment. Frankenstein believes that the ideal man is rational. He's immune to disease and powerful. In effect, Frankenstein, in creating his monster, is trying to create the ideal man. So being the ideal man that Dr. Frankenstein creates, Frankenstein's monster is much different than what we see in popular culture. I'll start with some basics, real simple stuff. Like in popular culture, Frankenstein's kind of green, he's got bolts in his neck. Now in the novel, Frankenstein is actually yellow. No bolts. There's no bolts in his neck. In popular culture, Frankenstein is slow moving and he's inarticulate. Basically, you get moans and groans, and he walks around very clumsily. In the novel, no, Frankenstein's monster is indeed the ideal creature that Dr. Frankenstein envisioned. He's 8 foot tall, he's muscled, he's bigger, he's faster, he's stronger, and most surprisingly, even though he begins somewhat inarticulate, Frankenstein's monster, by spying on people, teaches himself language. By reading books such as the Iliad, his language ability increases. So much so that as you read the novel, the dialogue relating to Frankenstein's monster sounds in tone, diction, vocabulary, no different than that of any of the other educated characters. Frankenstein's monster is elite and intelligent. Lastly, there are no peasants with pitchforks chasing Frankenstein's monster around. If they did, he would have killed them all. He's a utopian attempt at progress gone wrong. And he did have quite the temper, as is evidenced throughout the novel. So the point of the story is that even the basics that we think of about Frankenstein's monster are far, far removed from the novel itself. And so, you've learned something here today. How about that? So you can now, with just this limited knowledge of the difference between Frankenstein's monster of the novel and in pop culture, you yourself could be one of those annoying people that goes around correcting people on these facts. But don't be one of those people. Never begin a sentence with the word actually. Don't do that. Don't be that guy or gal. All right, so I've already described Dr. Frankenstein as a product of the Enlightenment, but that isn't what Mary Shelley's about at all. She represents the pushback against those ideas. Mary is moved by emotion and not intellect. There are things beyond our ability to control. That's really simple. We understand that. We should understand that. And so, to that extent, the Enlightenment is artifice, it's a construct. And what Mary Shelley is trying to do is tear down that construct. Let me give you an example I thought of to kind of explain the difference between the Enlightenment and the Romantic era. So think of Ben Franklin out there in the lightning storm with his kite, and there's the kite string that goes all the way down and a brass key hanging on the end. And that is Ben Franklin, who, by the way, was a product of the Enlightenment, using science and rationality to figure out the mysteries of nature. Well, yeah, that's the Enlightenment. So what's the Romantic era? What's the pushback on that? Well, imagine, if you will, if Ben Franklin put his chubby little fingers around that brass key and then got lit up by lightning. The Romantic era is the stop your heart, piss yourself, send your hair, and damn near kill you effect. That's the Romantic era. The Romantic era, and Mary Shelley in particular, is telling us that no, there are things you cannot control. Dr. Frankenstein's monster is exactly that. The monster kills because he has emotions. While Dr. Frankenstein represents the Enlightenment, the monster is the Enlightenment gone amok. Mary Shelley's novel, Frankenstein, is a gothic horror, which is just a subgenre within the Romantic era in literature. And she's telling us what happens when our notions of godlike ability to study and control go wrong. We've talked about the historical context of the novel, but let me give you some themes that'll help you read this novel a little bit better. The first is creator-creature. In the Judeo-Christian creation story, man is created in the image of God. However, man is not God. Man is subordinate to God, despite the fact man is created in God's image. Applying that same concept to Dr. Frankenstein and his monster, the monster is made in the image of man. He has the same physicality, but improved. The same intelligence, but improved. But what he's lacking in this context is a soul. There's something about the monster that is so near human, but lacking something so vital that is what causes people to recoil in terror when they confront the monster. The monster is unnatural because he didn't come from the womb. Now, Mary Shelley was in no way a religious person, but she is telling the reader is that man is more than intellect. He is ensouled, at least in some way. And another theory is science run amok. This speaks to our times in ways that probably Shelley never could have understood. Just think, for example, about creating nuclear weapons. Science says we can do that, and we do. But should we have? Should we have created bombs that could kill humanity hundreds of times over? It's science run amok. In our current era, artificial intelligence. Mary Shelley never could have envisioned artificial intelligence. Yes, we have the means to create artificial intelligence and then let artificial intelligence learn on its own. We can, but should we? Should we create without controls? And this is a theme that Mary Shelley is giving us. She's essentially saying, even if you accept the highest ideals of the Enlightenment, that man is rational, man can improve and make utopian progress by his intellect, even if you accept that, it can still go wrong. All right, so I'm going to give you the thing I teased on the thumbnail and at the beginning of this video, the kind of secret way to read this novel. Here it is. What if Dr. Frankenstein and the monster are the same? What if Dr. Frankenstein is doing all the killing and he's being controlled by his subconscious, even though his conscious mind doesn't know that he's doing it? It's interesting that in the novel itself, the monster is doing some killing when Dr. Frankenstein's not around, or when Dr. Frankenstein is asleep. And who dies? Well, I'm going to let you find out who dies, but there is a rationale under this theory for why each of the individuals dies, where Dr. Frankenstein, deep in his subconscious, may will that to occur. So that's kind of a fun thing. I don't think that's the best way to read this novel, frankly. I think the creator-creature theme and just understanding that the novel falls within the romantic pushback against the Enlightenment, I think those are the best ways to read the novel. By itself, though, I should speak to you about the story itself. The story is captivating. It's a good story. Mary Shelley is an incredible writer. In my opinion, she stands on par with every one of those Bronte sisters, except Mary Shelley is giving us dirt, grit. She's giving us violence. She's giving us horror instead of stories about marriageable girls and, flawed men. Mary Shelley's definitely unique here in her time. And so to conclude, I strongly recommend you read this novel for all the reasons I've said in this video. Do give it a shot. It's excellent. It's definitely a 4.5 star out of 5-star novel. So if you enjoyed this video, and hopefully I helped you not only want to read this novel, but give you an idea how best to read it, please like and subscribe. Right about now, there's going to be a picture of me in my naval officer uniform a long time ago. And I do believe that if you click on that, you can subscribe to this channel. And once we get to 1,000 subscribers, YouTube's going to monetize it, and we're going to give that money to local libraries. And that, my friends, will be a great day. Have a great day. God bless.